My best friend sabotaged my small business behind my back for months, stole my clients, and tried to destroy my reputation. She forgot I'm the one who taught her everything she knows. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who says, I have no friends. I was always the social one, the group chat organizer, the birthday party planner, the one who remembered everyone's allergies and dietary restrictions and kept extra phone chargers in her purse just in case. I was the friend who showed up at 2 a.m. when you were crying. The friend who helped you move apartments 3 times in 2 years without complaining. The friend who remembered your dog's birthday. I collected friends like some people collect vintage records, carefully, lovingly, and with way too much emotional investment. But after what happened with Leah, I learned something important. Something painful but necessary. It's better to have one real friend than 20 fake ones. And Leah Chen? Leah was the fakest of them all. She was a masterpiece of deception wrapped in a warm smile and a "you're my person" text message. Let me start from the beginning, because this story has layers and you need all of them to understand just how deep the betrayal went. I'm a freelance graphic designer. My business is called Olive Branch Design, and I started it about 5 years ago after getting laid off from a mid-sized advertising agency during a round of budget cuts. I was 30 years old, suddenly unemployed, and absolutely terrified. I had about 4 months of savings, a decent portfolio, and a whole lot of anxiety. But I hustled. God, did I hustle. I networked at every event I could find. I cold emailed businesses. I offered discounted rates to build my portfolio. I took every job I could get, no matter how small, logo designs for food trucks, business cards for dog walkers, wedding invitations for couples who wanted way too many fonts on one card. I once designed a menu for a pizza place that wanted Comic Sans as their primary font. I talked them out of it, but barely. Slowly, painfully, one client at a time, I built something real. After 3 years of grinding, I had a solid roster of about 18 regular clients, mostly small businesses, local restaurants, boutique shops, a few tech startups. I was making good money. Not rich person money, but comfortable money. Enough to rent a nice studio apartment with good natural light, take one vacation a year, put money into savings, and not have a panic attack when my car needed new brakes. For a freelancer, that's basically winning the lottery. I was proud of what I'd built. Olive Branch Design was mine. Every client earned, every relationship nurtured, every late night and early morning and weekend spent at my desk. It was the first thing in my life that felt truly, completely mine. Then Leah walked into it. We met about 4 years ago at a networking event for women entrepreneurs at a co-working space downtown. It was one of those events with name tags and cheap wine and a speaker talking about leaning in, or whatever the buzzword was that month. I almost didn't go. I was tired and had a deadline the next morning, but something told me to show up. Fate, I guess. Or bad luck disguised as fate. Leah was standing by the snack table looking lost and slightly overwhelmed. She was about my age, with this warm, open face and a nervous laugh that made you want to put her at ease. We started talking, and within 20 minutes, I felt like I'd known her for years. She had that gift, that ability to make you feel like you were the most interesting person in the room. She told me she was trying to start her own business, social media management for small businesses. She'd been doing it as a side hustle for a few months, but was struggling to make it a full-time thing. She was talented. I could tell from the examples she showed me on her phone, but she had no idea how to find clients, price her services, write proposals, or handle the business side of things. She was all creativity and no infrastructure. I took her under my wing. I'm not saying that to sound noble or self-important. It's just what happened. It felt natural. I'd been where she was 3 years earlier, and I remembered how lonely and scary it was. So I helped her. I introduced her to my professional network, every contact I'd spent years building. I referred clients to her when they needed social media help, which was often, since many of my design clients also needed someone to manage their Instagram and Facebook. I spent hours, literal hours, over coffee, over dinner, over the phone at 11 p.m., teaching her how to write proposals that win How to negotiate rates without underselling herself, how to handle difficult clients, how to set boundaries, how to manage her time and her money. I even designed her logo and built her website for free. Because that's what friends do, right? Her logo was beautiful, if I do say so myself, a clean, modern wordmark with a subtle leaf motif. Her website was professional and polished. I spent 3 weekends on it. She cried when she saw the finished product. "I can't believe you did this for me," she said, hugging me so tight I couldn't breathe. "I literally couldn't do this without you." And for a while, everything was great. Leah's business grew. She got clients, she got confidence, she started making real money, and our friendship deepened alongside our professional relationship. We texted every day. We had standing brunch dates on Sundays. She was the first person I called with good news and the first person I called with bad news. She sent me flowers on my business anniversary every year with a card that said, "To my mentor and soul sister." It felt good. After years of building my business alone, grinding in isolation, it was wonderful to have someone who understood the hustle. Someone I could vent to about late-paying clients and impossible deadlines and the existential dread of freelance life. Someone who got it. What I didn't realize, what I was too trusting and too busy to see, was that while I was building Leah up, she was quietly studying me. Not in a learning from a mentor way, in a predatory way. She was memorizing my client list, noting which businesses I worked with and what I charged them. She was studying my pricing structure, my proposal templates, my project management processes. She was taking mental notes and, I found out later, actual notes in a Google Doc titled OBD Info on everything I shared with her. Every piece of advice, every business strategy, every client relationship detail. She wasn't learning from me, she was casing me, like a burglar studying a house before the break-in. The first sign of trouble came about a year into our friendship. One of my longest-standing clients, a boutique clothing store called Fern and Ivy, suddenly stopped responding to my emails. We'd been working together for over 2 years. The owner, Diane, loved my work. She'd told me so dozens of times. I'd designed their logo, their shopping bags, their seasonal lookbooks, their entire visual identity. Then one day, mid-project, radio silence. Emails unanswered. Phone calls going to voicemail. I finally got Diane on the phone after a week of trying. She was awkward and apologetic, stumbling over her words. "I'm so sorry, but we've decided to go in a different direction for our design needs. It's nothing personal. We just found someone who's a better fit right now." I was confused but professional about it. Clients come and go. That's the reality of freelance life. You can't take it personally. I wished her well and moved on. Then it happened again. A farm-to-table restaurant I'd been designing menus and promotional materials for. Gone. No explanation, just a polite email saying they were making some changes. Then a tech startup I'd been doing branding for, logo, website, pitch deck, the works. Gone. Then a yoga studio, then a coffee roaster. Over the course of 3 months, I lost 5 clients. 5. That was almost a third of my regular income, vanishing like smoke. My savings started shrinking. My anxiety started growing. I lay awake at night running through every recent project, every interaction, every email, trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. Was my work slipping? Had I missed a deadline? Had I offended someone? I went through every recent project with a fine-tooth comb. Everything was solid. My work was good, better than good. Deadlines met, quality high, clients happy right up until the moment they weren't. So why were they leaving? The answer came from the most unexpected place. A client named Tom Brennan, who ran a craft brewery called Ironside Brewing, called me one afternoon. Tom was a straight shooter, a big, bearded guy who said exactly what he was thinking at all times, with zero filter and zero patience for nonsense. "Hey, so I got a weird email the other day," he said, his voice careful in a way that was unusual for him. "From someone named Leah Chen. She said she's been doing a lot of your design work behind the scenes, like as a subcontractor or something, and she's branching out on her own now. She offered to take over my account at half your rate. My stomach dropped. Like, physically dropped, like an elevator with a cut cable. She also said, Tom hesitated. I could hear him choosing his words. She said you've been having some personal issues lately and your work quality has been declining. She said she was reaching out to your clients as a courtesy to make sure they had a backup option in case you, I don't know, fell apart or something. I couldn't speak for a moment. My brain was trying to process what I was hearing, and it kept rejecting the information, like a computer trying to open a corrupted file. Leah, my best friend, my mentee, the person I'd built up from nothing, the person who called me her soul sister, was contacting my clients behind my back, telling them I was falling apart, and offering to replace me at half price. Tom, none of that is true, I managed, my voice shaking. I'm not having personal issues. My work quality is fine. And Leah is a social media manager, not a graphic designer. She doesn't do design work. Yeah, I figured something was off, Tom said. The whole thing felt slimy. That's why I called you instead of responding to her. Thought you should know. I thanked Tom profusely, repeatedly, almost embarrassingly, and hung up. Then I sat in my studio and stared at the wall for about 20 minutes while my entire understanding of my friendship with Leah rearranged itself into something ugly and unrecognizable. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, so methodical that I almost couldn't believe it. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a friend making a thoughtless mistake. This was a deliberate, systematic, months-long campaign to destroy my business and steal my livelihood. The person I'd trusted most in my professional life had been methodically dismantling everything I'd built while smiling to my face and texting me heart emojis. I called Leah. She didn't answer. I texted her a simple, "Hey, can we talk?" Nothing aggressive, nothing accusatory. No response. I tried again the next day. Nothing. She'd gone completely dark on me. But she hadn't gone dark on my clients. Oh no. Over the next week, I reached out to every client I'd lost in the past 3 months. The story was the same every single time, like a script she'd memorized. Leah had contacted them via email or phone. She'd introduced herself as my business partner, or my associate, or my collaborator. She'd told them I was stepping back from client work, or going through a rough patch, or dealing with some personal stuff. She'd expressed concern for their projects and offered her own services, design services, not social media, at drastically reduced rates. And here's the part that made me see red. The design work she was showing them as her portfolio? It was my work. She'd taken screenshots and downloads of projects I'd completed for other clients, removed my watermarks and signatures, and presented them as her own. She'd even recreated my website template for her new design business, a business she'd named, I kid you not, Olive and Branch Creative. Olive and Branch. She'd literally stolen my business name with a slight rearrangement. She'd stolen my name, my work, my clients, and my reputation, and she'd done it all while I was texting her about brunch plans. I was devastated, and furious, and heartbroken. All 3 emotions crashing into each other like waves in a storm. This person I'd trusted, mentored, supported, and loved like a sister had been methodically dismantling my life while smiling to my face. Every Sunday brunch, every late-night phone call, every "you're my person" text, all of it was a performance. All of it was cover for the real operation happening underneath. But here's the thing about me that Leah never understood, despite all her studying and note-taking. I'm a designer. I solve problems for a living. I think in systems and structures and strategies. And when I stopped crying, when the tears dried and the shock faded and the anger crystallized into something useful, I realized that Leah had made a critical, fundamental, fatal error. She thought I was soft. She thought because I was kind and generous and trusting, I was also weak. She thought I'd just take it, cry about it, maybe post a sad Instagram story about toxic friendships, and eventually fade away. Let her have my clients, my work, my name, disappear quietly. She was very, very wrong. I gave myself exactly 24 hours to grieve. I cried, I ate an entire pint of ice cream, I watched 3 episodes of a true crime documentary, and I went to bed early. The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., made the strongest coffee of my life, sat down at my desk, and got to work. Phase 1. Documentation. I went through every email, every text message, every social media interaction between me and Leah going back 4 years. I screenshotted everything, our conversations about my clients, her questions about my pricing, my advice about business strategy. I documented the timeline of our friendship alongside the timeline of my client losses. The correlation was damning. Then I turned to her new business. I screenshotted every page of her Olive and Branch Creative website, her portfolio page, her services page, her testimonials, some of which I noticed with a jolt of fury were testimonials from my former clients praising work that I had done. I downloaded everything and saved it in multiple locations. Then I did the most important thing. I pulled up my original project files. Every design I'd ever created was saved in my Adobe Creative Cloud account, with full metadata, creation dates, modification dates, my software license information, my username. More importantly, I had the original layered files. If you're not a designer, let me explain why this matters. A finished design is like a cake. You see the final product, but the original file, the PSD or AI file, is like having the recipe, the ingredients, and a video of yourself baking it. It contains every layer, every adjustment, every decision made during the creative process. Only the person who actually created the work has these files. Leah had screenshots. I had the originals. It wasn't even close. Phase 2, Legal Foundation. I called a lawyer. Her name was Renata Vasquez, and she specialized in intellectual property law and small business disputes. She came highly recommended by Tom, whose brewery had dealt with a trademark issue the previous year. When I showed Renata everything, the stolen portfolio, the copied business name, the client poaching, the defamatory statements about my personal issues, she got this look on her face. Half outrage on my behalf, half professional excitement at the strength of the case. This is one of the most clear-cut cases of business interference and intellectual property theft I've seen in 15 years of practice, she said. She didn't even try to hide it. The business name alone is actionable. Renata sent Leah a cease and desist letter via certified mail. The letter demanded that Leah immediately stop using my work in her portfolio, stop operating under the Olive and Branch Creative name, stop contacting my clients, and retract all false statements about my business and personal life. Leah's response came through a lawyer, a cheap one, based on the quality of the letter. It claimed that Leah had co-created all the work in question during our business partnership and had every right to use it. It also claimed that I was defaming Leah by telling clients she'd stolen my work and threatened a countersuit. Co-created. She'd co-created nothing. She didn't even own Adobe Creative Suite. She didn't know the difference between a vector file and a raster image. She once asked me what CMYK stood for. But sure, she co-created my work. Right, Renata wasn't worried. Let them threaten, she said. We have the metadata, the original files, and the client contracts with only your name on them. Their claim won't survive first contact with a judge. But the legal route was going to take time, months potentially, and in the meantime, Leah was still out there, still contacting potential clients, still using my work, still poisoning my reputation. I needed to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously. Phase 3. Client recovery. I reached out to every client I'd lost, not with anger or desperation or accusations, with calm, thorough professionalism. I sent each one a personalized email that included a brief, factual explanation of the situation, side-by-side comparisons of my original work and Leah's portfolio versions, the metadata from my original files showing creation dates that predated Leah's business by years, a copy of the cease and desist letter, and a special offer: any returning client would receive their next project at a 20% discount with a guaranteed turnaround time. 4 out of 5 came back within 2 weeks. They were apologetic, embarrassed, angry on my behalf. Diane from Fern and Ivy called me personally and said, "I feel terrible. She was so convincing. She had answers for everything. I should have called you first." I told her it wasn't her fault. Leah was a professional manipulator and she'd fooled me too. The fifth client, a startup that had already signed a contract with Leah, came back 3 weeks later. Why? Because Leah delivered work that was, to put it charitably, terrible. Turns out, when you steal a designer's portfolio but don't actually have any design skills, clients notice pretty quickly. The startup owner told me Leah's first deliverable looked like a middle schooler's PowerPoint project. His words, not mine. Though I wouldn't have been that generous. Phase 4. Community Defense. Our city had a tight-knit small business community. Networking events, Facebook groups, a local business association with monthly meetings. Leah and I were both active in these spaces. I knew that if I just publicly accused her, it could look like petty drama between two women in business, the kind of thing people dismiss and both parties lose credibility over. I needed to be strategic, so I didn't accuse her directly. Instead, I organized a free workshop for the local business association on protecting your creative work, copyright, contracts, and red flags. I presented it as an educational event, and it genuinely was. I covered copyright basics, how to protect your intellectual property, how to spot portfolio theft, and what to do if someone steals your work or poaches your clients. But I also included a case study. An anonymous case study about a freelancer whose work was stolen by someone they trusted. I walked through the red flags, the evidence trail, the legal remedies, and the emotional toll. I didn't name Leah. I didn't have to. Half the room already knew the story through the small business grapevine, and the other half figured it out from the specific details. After the workshop, 6 different business owners approached me privately. Each one had a variation of the same story. Leah had contacted them, shown them a portfolio of her work, and offered services at suspiciously low rates. 3 of them had been on the verge of hiring her. They were grateful for the warning. The workshop also got written up in the local business newsletter, which meant even more people learned about the situation without me having to name names or look like I was starting drama. Phase 5. The Trap. This was my favorite part. The part that still makes me smile when I think about it. I knew Leah was monitoring my social media. She'd been copying my work in near real time, which meant she was watching my posts closely. So I created a piece of bait. I designed a stunning brand identity concept for a fictional company, a high-end candle brand called Lumiere & Co. I created a full suite: logo, color palette, packaging mock-ups, social media templates. It was gorgeous work, some of my best. I made it look like a real client project. I posted it on my Instagram and my website with a caption about being so excited about this new client partnership. But I embedded something in the design, a hidden element. In the background pattern of the packaging mock-up, barely visible at normal size but clear when you zoomed in, I'd placed my copyright information and a URL linking to my website's copyright notice page. It was like a digital watermark, invisible to the casual viewer, but undeniable proof of origin to anyone who looked closely. Within 6 days, Leah had copied it. She posted the Lumiere & Company designs on her website as her own work, with minor color adjustments that she probably thought made it different enough. She even showed it to a potential client, a woman named Sandra Okafor, who owned a chain of yoga studios and was looking for a complete rebrand. Sandra was impressed by the work. She was about to sign a contract with Leah. But Sandra was also a member of the local business Facebook group. She'd attended my workshop. She was suspicious. So before signing anything, she did something smart. She zoomed in on the packaging mock-up. She found my hidden copyright. She found the URL. She clicked it and landed on my website, where my copyright notice was displayed alongside my original portfolio, including the Lumiere & Coder project, posted 6 days before Leah's version. Sandra sent me a screenshot and a message. "I think you should see this." I now had irrefutable, time-stamped, undeniable proof that Leah was actively stealing my work in real time. Not old work she could claim was co-created during our partnership. Brand new work, posted on my accounts first, stolen and reposted by her days later, with my hidden copyright still embedded in the files. Renata nearly did a backflip when I showed her. "This is the nail in the coffin," she said. "This proves ongoing, willful infringement. A judge is going to love this." Phase 6. The Reckoning. With everything compiled, the original files with metadata, the client statements, the cease and desist that was ignored, the community testimony, the copyright trap evidence, Renata filed a comprehensive lawsuit: copyright infringement, unfair business practices, tortious interference with business relationships, defamation, and misappropriation of trade identity. We also filed a complaint with the local business licensing board for operating under a deceptively similar business name. The lawsuit was filed on a Monday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, Leah's lawyer had dropped her. He'd taken the case thinking it was a simple dispute between former friends, a she said situation he could muddy up enough to force a settlement. When he saw the mountain of evidence, the metadata, the original layered files, the hidden copyright trap, the 6 client statements, the community testimony, the cease and desist she'd ignored, he realized this wasn't a dispute. It was a demolition, and he didn't want to be standing in the building when it came down. Leah tried to call me. For the first time in months, after ghosting me completely, she wanted to talk. She left a voicemail that was equal parts sobbing and threatening, her voice swinging wildly between self-pity and aggression. "You're ruining my life. I thought we were friends. How can you do this to me? Everything I did, I learned from you. Doesn't that count for something? If you don't drop this lawsuit, I'll tell everyone you're a bully who targets other women in business. I'll destroy you." I saved the voicemail. More evidence of her character. More proof that she saw herself as the victim even while actively stealing from me. She tried the social media route next. She posted a long, tearful Instagram story, multiple slides, carefully curated vulnerability, about being attacked by someone she trusted, and how women should support women, not tear each other down, and how she was just trying to build something beautiful, and some people can't handle seeing others succeed. She positioned herself as the victim of a jealous, vindictive former friend. A few people who didn't know the full story left sympathetic comments, heart emojis, "Stay strong, queen," "Haters gonna hate." Then the receipts started dropping. People from the business community, people I hadn't even asked, people who'd come to my workshop or heard the story through the grapevine, started posting in the comments with the truth. Side-by-side comparisons of Leah's stolen portfolio and my originals. Screenshots of Leah's emails to their businesses, full of lies about my personal issues. Links to my workshop presentation. Timestamps proving my work predated hers by years. The comment section turned into a public trial, and Leah was losing badly. Every sympathetic comment was buried under 10 corrections. Every "stay strong" was met with, "She stole someone's entire business. Here's the proof." She deleted the post within 3 hours. But screenshots were already circulating in every local business group, every networking chat, every professional community we'd both been part of. The internet never forgets, and small business communities have very long memories. Leah couldn't find a new lawyer willing to take her case. She tried 3 firms I know because Renata heard through the legal grapevine. Each one reviewed the evidence and declined. She attempted to represent herself at the preliminary hearing, which went about as well as you'd expect. The judge reviewed the side-by-side portfolio comparisons, the metadata evidence, the hidden copyright trap, and the timeline of client losses, and he actually said out loud, on the record, "Ms. Chen, this is remarkably brazen. I've seen intellectual property cases with more subtlety from college students." Leah settled. She had no choice. The terms were comprehensive and, I think, fair, though Leah probably wouldn't use that word. She paid me $45,000 in damages, money she had to take out a personal loan to cover, since her fraudulent business hadn't actually generated much legitimate income. She was required to permanently take down her website and delete all social media accounts associated with Olive and Branch Creative. She was required to issue a written apology, drafted by Renata, approved by the judge, to every single client she'd contacted using my work. The apology specifically acknowledged that the work she'd presented was not hers and that her statements about my business were false. She was permanently barred from using any variation of Olive Branch or Olive and Branch in any business name, anywhere, ever. And she was required to complete a certified ethics course for business professionals at her own expense. The Business Licensing Board also investigated and revoked her social media management license for operating a fraudulent secondary business. So she lost both businesses, the fake design business she'd built on my stolen work and the legitimate social media business she'd neglected and abandoned while trying to become me. The aftermath was something I didn't fully expect. My business didn't just recover, it exploded. The whole ordeal had made me visible in the local business community in a way that years of quiet, steady networking never had. People respected how I'd handled it, professionally, strategically, without public mudslinging or emotional breakdowns. They saw someone who'd been wronged and who'd responded with evidence, not drama. New clients started reaching out, not just local businesses but companies from neighboring cities who'd heard the story. I had to start a waitlist for the first time in my career. A waitlist. Me. The woman who'd been eating ramen 5 years ago. I also got invited to speak at 3 different business conferences about protecting creative work and intellectual property. I turned those talks into an online course. Protect Your Creative Business, a freelancer's guide to IP, contracts, and client relationships that now generates passive income every month. The worst thing that ever happened to my business accidentally became the best marketing I never planned. As for Leah, I heard through mutual acquaintances that she moved to another city about 6 months after the settlement. She's apparently working a corporate job now, social media coordinator for a mid-sized insurance company. 9 to 5, cubicle, fluorescent lights, someone else's brand. No more entrepreneurship, no more freelancing, no more soul sister manipulation. I don't know if she learned anything from the experience. I don't know if she understands what she did, or if she still sees herself as the victim of my jealousy. Honestly, I don't care. She's not my problem anymore. She's not my friend. She's not my enemy. She's just someone I used to know. Someone who taught me an expensive lesson about the difference between friendship and performance. What I do care about is this. I almost let her win. There was a moment right after Tom's phone call, sitting in my studio staring at the wall, when I seriously considered just giving up. Closing Olive Branch Design, updating my resume, getting a corporate job with a steady paycheck and no risk of betrayal, letting Leah have whatever she wanted because fighting felt too hard and too painful and too exhausting. I'm so glad I didn't, so incredibly, profoundly glad. Because here's what I've learned and what I want anyone reading this to know. The people who try to tear you down are counting on you being too tired, too sad, or too nice to fight back. They're counting on your kindness being a weakness. They're betting that you'll choose peace over justice, that you'll walk away rather than stand your ground. And sometimes, honestly, peace is the right choice. Sometimes walking away is the strongest, healthiest thing you can do. Not every battle is worth fighting. But sometimes, when someone is actively destroying what you've built, when they're stealing your work and your name and your reputation, when they're counting on your silence, sometimes you need to stand your ground. You need to document everything. You need to get a good lawyer. You need to build your case brick by brick. And you need to show people exactly what happens when they mistake your generosity for gullibility. I built Olive Branch Design from nothing once. From ramen dinners and anxiety and a prayer. Leah tried to take it from me, and I built it back even stronger. Not because I'm special or extraordinary or tougher than anyone else. Because I refuse to let someone else's betrayal be the ending of my story. I refuse to let a thief write my final chapter. My business is thriving. My client list is longer than it's ever been. I just signed a lease on a proper office space, my first real studio, not just a corner of my apartment. It has big windows and exposed brick and enough room for a proper desk and a meeting table and a little couch for when I need to think. I hung my original Olive Branch Design logo on the wall, The one I designed 5 years ago in my apartment at 2 a.m., when I was scared and broke and had no idea if any of this would work. And right next to it, I hung a small framed print. It's a quote I found during the worst of the Leah situation, when I was up at 2 a.m. stress eating crackers and doom scrolling and wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake by fighting back. The quote says, "The best revenge is a life well lived." I used to think that was just a nice saying, a greeting card sentiment, something people put on Pinterest boards next to photos of sunsets. Now I know it's a business strategy, and a damn good one. Leah, if you ever read this, and I know you still check my social media, because my analytics don't lie and I can see the traffic from your city, I want you to know something. I don't hate you. I did for a while, for months actually. But hate takes energy, and I'd rather spend that energy on my business, my real friends, and my life. But I also want you to know this. Everything you tried to steal from me, I still have it. The clients, the reputation, the skills, the name, the business. You couldn't take any of it, not permanently. Because you can't steal what someone built with their own hands and heart and sleepless nights. You can copy it, sure. You can screenshot it and remove the watermark and put your name on it. But a copy is never as good as the original. It never has the layers. It never has the depth. It never has the soul. And I'm the original. I always was.